Hi, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Depends on which part of the world you are in, right? So welcome to the NUS Business School webinar series, Navigating the New Norm. I'm James Pang, the co-director of NUS Business Analytics Centre. I'm excited to have Scott Russell, who is the president of SAP Asia Pacific and Japan, right? Scott is also a close friend of NUS. He's sitting in the advisory board of NUS Business Analytics Centre. Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hey, James. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So hope everything's going well in Australia. Thanks for joining us today, right? So the topic of today's section is the work we lead tomorrow, right? So this is very important topics. So the format of today's section will be that Scott and myself will talk for about 20 minutes, and then we'll open the Q&A online, right? So feel free to ask your questions, use the online chat box, all right? So Scott, maybe we can start the dialogue from SAP, right? So all of us know SAP is a world-leading company, right, in the technology area, and have many employees in globally, right, in all over the world. So my first two questions are, how does SAP respond to this COVID-19 pandemic crisis, right? So what is the biggest challenge SAP senior leadership team are facing right now? Scott?
So I think there's a couple of things that I would say. First and foremost is responding to this challenge was about employees and about customers. But we actually needed to rely upon our crisis management team. You've got to love working from home. That was in place to deal with crises. And this isn't the first time that we've had a crisis to deal with. We've dealt with crises for some time, with SARS, with Ebola, with H1N1, and also political and other crises. So we already had the infrastructure in place. Critically, what we needed to do was ensure that we put it in place to quickly respond to our employees, ensuring that they react. We had an infrastructure in place to support them and also to support our customers. We have over 450,000 customers around the world, 45,000 customers in Asia Pacific and Japan. And so we immediately went to work on ensuring that we had the right support, we provide data center and infrastructure, and ensuring that there was no disruption and that they were safe and well looked after.
Okay, yeah, good. Thanks for sharing, right? So Scott, since you're talking about the SAP employees, right? We all know SAP actually is taking care very well of employees, right? And so can you share with us a little bit more detail, right? During this situation, how does SAP ensuring the well-being of your employees? Because a lot of them, they're working at home, right? And so how you ensure the well-being of the employees during this COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah. Look, I think there's a few lessons learned that we've had that are really important for all of any business, whether you're small, medium, and large, that we certainly learned through this crisis. First of all, two-way communication is critical. It's actually okay to not know the answer. We're dealing with an unpredictable environment, and I think as human beings and as businesses, uncertainty can cause concern because we don't know what's next. So we very much orientated ourselves to controlling what we can control, controlling the controllables, ensuring that we've got a support network for our customers and for our employees, that when they didn't know the answer and we didn't know the answer, we could at least give them confidence about what we did know. We knew we could work from home. We knew we were able to support all of our customers through our data centers, through our infrastructure, anywhere on the planet. We also knew that we had health and welfare systems and support networks already in place. So what we really tried to do is open up two-way communication, regular communication discussions with our employees, ensuring we answered open questions, and then secondly, gave them a framework of which we could operate. And as information came to hand, James, we were able to then update on a timely basis. So it doesn't give you the confidence that everything's going to be okay, but at least it gives enough predictability that we know what we can control and we can work within that framework. I would say one thing. Employees, no matter where you are, we're not working from home. We're doing our work and the location just happens to be home at the moment. And it's a bit of a different mindset, but you know, we're still productive. We're still contributing. It might not be in the same way, and we want to recognize and value that.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing, right? I believe audience who are not the SAP employee yet, they would like to be an SAP employee after your sharing, right? So during this COVID-19 situation, right? Just now we're talking about a lot of the work crisis, right? So many people talk about crisis during this period, right? There's nothing wrong, right? But some smart company, right? Actually, they also see the opportunities from the crisis, right? For example, we can think back like 17 years ago, right? During the SARS crisis, some of the very big names right now, like Alibaba, JD.com, right? And 17 years ago, they are nobody, right? Alibaba just a new startup, JD.com just starting their business, right? But they really take advantage of the last, the crisis during SARS, right? They see the opportunity from the crisis, and they really, create a new business model. And now, after 17 years, they're running very well, right? They become one of the, the most influential e-commerce company in the world, right?
Yes.
Question is, from your perspective, right? As a world-leading technology company, does SAP view this COVID-19 more as a crisis or more as an opportunity?
Great question, James. The reality is it's a bit of both. And let me explain why we see it as both. First of all, the role of digital and technology, I don't think there is any debate. If there was before, there's no longer any debate. The role of digital in a business is paramount in the way you navigate going forward. Whether that be through simple technologies such as what you and I are using today to be able to communicate effectively with each other and other audiences. So the use of digital in very basic form or in very complex form and how you transform, to your point, new business models. Digital is paramount. And that's not just because we're a technology company. It's because technology and that digital platform becomes the very core of how you respond and react and be able to serve your customers. And so I think from that point of view, the crisis has accelerated the understanding that for all businesses anywhere on the planet, including in Singapore, digital is a fundamental part of the way a business needs to operate. And I guess that's the opportunity side. The other part then is, well, how do you then accelerate from it in new business models? Sometimes it's forced. We see many of our customers that are forced into different revenue streams, different ways of being able to deliver value to their customers or gain new customers because the traditional methods that they were using are no longer applicable or they can't rely upon them. And I think that's where some of the changes may well be short-term. Simple examples in terms of food and groceries. So commerce, we've got a great commerce platform that we provide to our customers. Right now, the consumption through the online platform is enormous. That will come back a little bit and we'll go back to, but will we go back to the way we were before? I don't think so. I think those new normals will now be put in place.
Okay, great. Very insightful sharing, right? Yeah. Scott, since you're talking about technology, right? And I feel now during this COVID-19, it seems that the people, they rely on technology even more, right? We are doing the online conference right now, right? A lot of people now, they're working from home. I believe they use either one of the platform like Zoom or Web Maps or, the Microsoft Teams, etc., right? And we also know different countries actually they use the big data technology to check and change the people's movement, right? And trying to figure out the potential affected people, etc., right? So my next question actually would like to go to a little bit more detail about this question, right? So how do you view about the role of technology in responding to the unexpected crisis like COVID-19, right? Because this time is very serious, but I think in the future we probably will facing even more challenging situation. Yeah.
I think the role of technology is really important. Let me give you a really simple example of how it becomes a really powerful and positive effect. We have 100,000 employees globally. In Asia Pacific, we have over 20,000 employees in the region that I'm responsible for. And I was able to, with our Qualtrics remote pulse survey, be able to connect and get feedback and sentiment from our employees. How are they feeling? Do they feel safe and secure? Have we got the right framework and benefits in place? Are they able to be productive? Asking very simple questions that gave us immediate information that we could act upon to help them not only be productive, but their mental health and well-being, support for their families. And so that technology is available with Qualtrics here and now, and it's very, very powerful. because you can act upon it in a scalable way. I think when you look at other forms of technology, look, we've got to be aware that government and situations where supporting the national agenda, such as contact tracing and things like that, and how do you balance that with security and privacy and other matters? I think the role of technology, as long as it's used wisely, and that's really important, used wisely from both the corporate and from a public sector point of view, it becomes a really powerful addition to support us as a community navigating through these sort of situations. And I, for one, feel that as long as we've got that wise use, we don't know what will happen in the future, but we've got to expect that global situations, we've had financial crises, we've now got a health crisis. So the ability to navigate through these things going forward, we've got to expect that it may happen again in the future. And using the technology to predict, to be able to react even faster and to support our local communities, that's a good thing. And we're certainly very committed to providing a framework of technology that used in the right way creates a lot of benefit to all citizens.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the very big kind of example, right, and the explanation, right. So now I would like to shift the topic a little bit different, right. I would like to go to a supply chain kind of perspective, right, because during this COVID-19 situation, many people talking about the global supply chain, right, and we all know right now the global supply chain actually affected by the COVID-19 dramatically, right. So as a multinational company, SAP, you definitely have a global supply chain. You also have a lot of clients in different countries to serve, right? So how does the market, right, disruption right now impact SAP so far, right? And how will SAP, you are going to have a recovery plan after this, COVID-19 for the supply chain perspective? How you're going to redesign a supply chain? Yeah.
Let me answer the question on how we are navigating it as an organization. Clearly, we're in the technology industry, but we're not immune to the COVID-19 situation and the impact on our business. There's no doubt that while, as I said before, technology and digital are at the core of all businesses going forward, the short-term ability to invest and do those transformation and change programs, that varies across industries, across geographies, across size of business. And so we're supporting our customers and we're navigating that well. We clearly need to balance being a great partner to all of our customers and providing that support, but still having financial health and well-being for our business. And we're doing that well at the moment. We expect that to continue. On the supply chain side, it's really interesting distinguishing between short-term, long-term. There is no doubt in the short term, some of the dependencies and the breakdowns on the supply chain have come to bear, whether that be a dependency on particular locations or on the technology using to manage that supply chain. And then secondly, the resilience and the ability to have flexibility. And I guess in the past, we've got a lot of supply chain technology that we provide to our customers. A lot of focus historically has been around productivity and efficiency, how we can get scale. And a lot of the focus on supply chain has been that. You can immediately see that pivot to flexibility and resilience. Yes, we still want productivity, but the flexibility and the adaptability within the supply chain becomes a lot more important. So for us, we provide technology that solves complex business problems. Our technology needs to cater for that flexibility. So I think that's a long-term trend that we will see, that companies, both small, medium, and large, will be able to navigate and deal with disruption to their supply chains way more effectively than maybe what's happened here. In the short term, however, I think there are some short-term decision-making around locations that are a little bit in reaction to the current situation. And I think there's some short-term actions that companies will make in terms of, changing production facilities to a different country or a different location, or potentially looking to do more inside their own countries. I think that will balance out back to the overall objective that I saw, which was resilience and flexibility in supply chain being a far higher priority than just the efficiency and the lower cost productivity side that maybe we've seen in the past.
Great. Yeah, Scott, good to hear you, to analyze this problem from short-term, long-term perspective, right? So I think that is a very insightful, right? So we are talking about the supply chain, and it seems now there's one very hot topic in the supply chain area also is anti-globalization, right? And so we know this globalization in the past 20 years actually is a major trend in the industry, but in the past few years, especially when the new US government come out, right, and people start to talk about the anti-globalization, right, and especially now during this COVID-19 situation, people even talking about this more, right? So from your perspective, right, how do you view this anti-globalization? Do you think, just now you're talking about the short term and long term, right? So for this part, do you think will this anti-globalization discussion will be just a short term step back, or it will be a long term trend in the industry?
I guess as a global company, we're proud to be a global organization, but we do have a focus on we are global, but we act local. And that means we do need to be aware of the short term, I guess, not just sentiment, but actions that could be taken, because one of the situations that this crisis has brought to bear is when you are relying on global supply chains and globalization of your business, if you don't have that flexibility and resilience that I talked about before, and the ability to switch and be able to adapt, it can impact your business, that and the viability of it. So I think when it comes to business necessity, I wouldn't say the driver is about anti-globalization, but I think it comes back to that flexibility that I talked about before. The only other comment that I would make is locally, the businesses that have suffered the most out of this crisis has tended to be small enterprise that are operating on tight cash flow, that they have got local customers. And I think the role that global companies like SAP play to support the small companies in all of the countries we operate, I think must play a bigger role. We're committed to do so. And together with governments, I think what you'll see, not so much again in anti-globalization, but emphasis to support local communities and local businesses. It's the most vibrant, most important part of supporting our local communities. And I think that will increase across all countries because they're the hardest hit and they're the ones that we need to support the most.
Yeah, I think maybe supporting the local operations, the communities is a better word compared to the anti-globalization, right? Yeah. So we know this COVID-19, right? It's not the first crisis we are facing, right? And it's most likely it will not be the last pandemic or crisis we are facing in the world, right? So as the multinational company as SAP, right? And how do you feel these large MNCs, they can prepare themselves better for the future unexpected world, right? Because now the world is become more and more dynamic, right? And maybe more unexpected crises will coming out in the future, right? How the MNCs can prepare themselves better for the future dynamic world?
Yeah, there's a number of lessons learned, and I think for every business and for the local communities, there's many learnings that we've had around this situation. Let me start by saying the role that Asia plays, Singapore and Asia plays in navigating our way through this crisis. I've been on the record many times in talking about the role of Asia leading through this. And in fact, I'm quite proud, having lived and worked in this region for 20 plus years. If you look at the way most of the countries in Asia have reacted to the challenge, managed it, and then responded in a positive way, it's actually been, I think, leadership for the world. And what I first of all see is the role that Asia continues as the economic center of the world. Over 50% of the world's GDP is in this region. And then it will only continue in the future. And then secondly, how we support our communities. I think we need to take the mantle in that leadership role. And I think for both global companies, regional and local businesses, I think the appetite is there more than ever post-COVID to be able to take that leadership position. The second is we do need to prepare based on what we've seen on the learnings. The first is there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise. In fact, we built a small app called Bridget, which was all about getting accurate information to our employees and not from different news sources that were speculation, and making sure that we could provide information to our employees on true information sources that were accurate, that were scientific, that were from trusted sources. So there's a lot of noise out there, and be focused on what matters, and really, distorting the noise and focusing on what's really important. And I think more than ever in an environment like this, being really centered on the reality is important. And then the second thing that I would say that I think our business has focused on, and I would see for many of our customers and companies around the world, is creativity during crises becomes more important than ever. You made the comment, James. Some companies are looking to capitalize on a situation and come up with new business models, new creative ways to serve the market in a crisis. I think that will see more and more entrepreneurialism, more and more ideas of creativity that not only serves the community better, but actually are new business ideas. And I think that's paramount, because as we move forward, that flexibility becomes really important.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So this will be my last question, and after that, I will pass this opportunity for the online audience to ask the question, right? So my last question actually I help the audience to ask it, right? Because I believe a lot of audience right now, they are, the NUS student or alumni, or some people, they are in the mid-career, right? Maybe some audience, they are already in a senior position, but everybody, they will have the same, question, right? Because talking about the work become more dynamics, maybe more crises coming in the future, right? And how can we prepare ourselves better, right, for a dynamic work in the future? Yeah.
A few thoughts. First of all, and I've said this many times to my own employees, and I would say to all of the current and past and future students for NUS, is learning agility as a core competency as a person is just so vital. And so the constant learning and the ability to learn and the willingness to adapt and build out your skills, you're never done. You've never achieved. So that learning ideal of, in no matter what form it takes, becomes a really important skill in itself. You'd be interested to know that often I look at learning agility being the most important aspect, because you know that you're not going to have all the information, all of the skills that you need for the future, because you don't even know what those needs are. But if you've got that adaptability, it becomes really critical. So that would be my first feedback. And then the second is, a lot of people think that digital is for the technology industry, but it maybe not be for financial services or telecommunications or travel and transport or any other industry. The reality is digital skills, understanding how to use digital capabilities to serve the industry that you're passionate about, really focus and learn about how you can do that effectively, because I believe strongly that it will become a paramount capability in the future. And in the business school that I support you with in business and analytics, James, the ability to analyze data, to understand it, to use techniques such as machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to give you insights as a business. You don't need to be a technology developer, but how to leverage that information and use it effectively for your business is a skill. And I would strongly recommend for all of the audience to continue to build upon those capabilities, because they will always be valuable in any type of business, including ours.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Scott, thanks for help us to promoting the business analytics also. So now, thanks for the great sharing. Now probably we can open the platform to the audience online for any question. All right, we have a question coming, right? This question is from Kwai Yu Han, right? And so this may be a gentleman, right? Asks how to foster collaboration among the sectors when resources are constrained. This is a very good question.
First of all, we always deal with the situation: finite resources, infinite ideas, possibilities. And so businesses are always, whether it be a human resource, an asset, we're always trying to optimize dealing with the opportunity cost and being able to balance the use of resources and trying to do so in the most optimal way. It's become even more vital now than ever before, given the situation with COVID, but it was always there. What I find, however, to answer the question, how do you foster the collaboration? It's interesting that we're no longer defining the boundaries of our industries the way that we used to. So we've got consumer product companies who might provide shirts and shoes and athletic wear, who see themselves as digital companies because the way they interact with their customers is through a digital platform, an app, or other means. And so what we find is the collaboration between different industries, technology industries to others, service industries to product industries. I think you'll find that businesses are much more open to that cross collaboration that will allow the sectors to be able to do so. But ultimately, it comes back to value being delivered for the business. There's no hidden way to avoid it. Value being delivered is the ultimate measure of success, and the value can be measured in multiple ways. Value to the community, value in terms of financial value, value in terms of innovation and IP that will build strength for the future. So as long as you're building something that drives collaboration, that drives the output. What we've noticed as a business is we're doing more collaboration now cross-industry than I've ever seen us do before, because we see new business ideas. We see we can learn from other industries that can positively impact us and vice versa, and that they tend to get a higher priority than maybe an inward-looking way of approaching our business in the past.
Okay, great, Scott. So the next question coming from online, this may be a question come from one of your partner, right? And he's asking, what is SAP doing to keep the business ecosystem robust, right? Many SMEs are now struggling and they are your channel partners. So that's why maybe the people asking the question right now is your partner, right? And the vendors is such as, so what can the MMCs like, SAP can do a better, right, to help the ecosystem?
Yeah. Look, I think there's multiple parts, and it's a great question. And be assured, the partners, we've got over 3,000 companies who are partners to us in this region, who rely upon SAP and the success that we generate and the relationships we have with our customers to support their business. So first and foremost is operate always with understanding and empathy. Many of those businesses, we understand, whether it be through financial support in their cash flow and payment. But one of the things that we've really focused on is, back to the earlier question, let's emphasize learning enablement, skills development for those businesses to help them come up with either new revenue streams or support the period where they might have some downturn to use it as a productive period of time. So when things do start to come back, that they're able to leverage new skills. So we're trying to invest in those areas to be able to support them. And then last but not least is in the long term, look for, through our business networks, ways that they can come up with new revenue opportunities or new business opportunities using our business to business network, the Ariba network and others that they may not have participated in the past. So short term, dealing with the here and now, and then longer term, supporting their business growth. It's not perfect, and we know that those SMEs, as I mentioned before, they're so vital to local communities and to our business. So we've got a vested interest, and I think most MNCs would feel the same. I can tell you, speaking to those companies, a lot of us are focused on the support of those businesses because we know their impact on the community, even more so than some of our biggest customers, because they've got the ability to go through this period of time and may be able to withstand the COVID situation, the impact of it more easily than small businesses.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Right? Because of time constraint, we probably have time for 2 more questions, right?
Okay.
So the next question is coming from Isaac, right? And the question is actually it's kind of related to the question asking before, right? Will the business be more focusing on regional cooperation, right? Or it can be resume the probably in the event that's the vesting of the COVID.
Hopefully you can still hear me, James. It cut out on me a little bit there. Are you able to still see me?
I can still hear. Hello, Scott.
You can hear me now? Sorry, we had a bit of a technology challenge. Can you hear me, James?
Too many people online. Yeah, I can hear you right now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me try to answer the question. Look, I think we're focused on both regional cooperation, regional support. A lot of our focus, for example, on supply chain, we believe that supply chain leadership across the world will be centered in Asia. And so our technology, the development of the solutions has got a regional emphasis, but driving globally. But then we're not waiting for vaccines, or we're basically saying, look, we need to deal with an unknown future, navigating that unknown future. Hopefully we're able to deal with vaccines and others, but we're guiding our business and being to interact with our customers, interact with our suppliers, interact with our employees in a digital way. And then when, for example, travel becomes open or other platforms, we can then navigate our way through. But we're doing it both globally in terms of support for our business, but very much regional leadership as well.
Okay, thanks. We still have a lot of questions online, but because of time constraint, I can only pick the last question, right? And to conclude this section, right? The last question is how different should leaders act in a new normal, right? So this is related to our topic today.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And leadership has got so many different facets to it. Right now, people need belief. They need understanding. They need empathy, because we're dealing with an unknown situation. And let's face it, we're all as human beings worried for our loved ones, worried for our families, worried for our communities. We're worried about job security. So there's a lot of concerns that we have as human beings that is around the world. As leaders, I think the most important aspect is showing an understanding of that environment, and then being able to balance the difference between having information to share with others and being able to give guidance and belief going forward that everything will be okay. But don't mislead. Don't always be anchored on the truth and the reality of the situation, but give an understanding. So no matter what business decisions are made for your business, as a leader, people can have that authentic conversation with you. They can believe that whatever you're putting forward is something that has been well researched, well understood, and that they're better or they're more inclined to follow that leader going forward. We actually believe during a crisis is when you see great leaders step up, because they're able to help navigate difficult situations and provide direction to employees, to customers, to partners in a way that it gives some structure and some belief, even if the total outcome is not understood. So my view of leaders is communication, two-way, knowing and having the confidence that it's okay not to have every answer, but giving a structure that gives people that confidence that the way forward is the right one. It's not an easy thing to do. I've been doing every 2 or 3 weeks, I've been doing two-way group calls, and we get amazing questions. So you always feel as a leader, you're not addressing everything, but I think giving that understanding and trying to open yourself up that at the end of the day, we're all human. I think that's ended up being a really positive thing for the leadership in my team and many businesses that I've seen.
Yeah, great. Scott, you're definitely a great leader, right? Thanks for sharing. And thank you everyone for joining us online today, right? And thank you for all the questions. Just a quick reminder, right? There's the next NUS Business School webinar section will be on next Wednesday at the same time and at the same channel, right? So my colleague Nitin will talk about how can SME, right, small and medium enterprise, deal with a crisis. Today we are focused on MMC, multinational company. And next section you'll hear the perspective from the SME perspective, right? So again, Scott, thanks for the great sharing. Thanks for your time. I know you're very busy and the sharing is very insightful, right? Maybe I can invite you to give a few words to close this section.
Thank you, James. First of all, thank you to you and NUS for the opportunity to join you today, and hopefully it was informative to all of the participants. Look, all I can say is let's go forward together. In Asia, we have the opportunity to lead the world through pandemics and crises, and also both the economic and the communities that we serve is being able to provide that leadership. It's certainly my objective on behalf of SAP to help contribute towards that. But if we work together and we go forward together, then I think we can navigate our way through these situations and the world be in a better place. But it's up to us. And I look forward to partnering with you and NUS and with your students that work with us many times on capstone projects to help play a role in support of that. So thank you for your time and appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, and thank everyone online. Right, I hope you all enjoy the rest of the day. So bye-bye.
Thank you.